Hi, I'm Christian. When I was a little kid, I joined Cub Scouts. And then I quit. And I'm not totally sure why I quit, and I've kind of always regretted that decision. So here's my idea. I want some adventure, but I can't become an official Boy Scout. So I'm gonna do it all on my own. I'm gonna do the entire curriculum of Scouts from Cub all the way up to Eagle in 1 year. It's called Old Scout. Welcome to the 28th episode of Old Scout. This is the Reading Merit Badge. Why don't we just run through the list of requirements?
Okay. Requirement number 1, have read at least 12 books within the past year. Number 2, indicate the places in your community or county from which you may borrow, rent, or purchase books, and present library card or other evidence of how you secured these books read in Requirement 1. Requirement number 3, explain how you became interested in your favorite hobby and how you acquired the information or material to make your hobby worthwhile. Make a list of books, pamphlets, and magazines which you could suggest to a friend just starting this hobby. Number 4, list the books you own as a start toward a personal library. Requirement number 5, report on newspapers or news magazines you read to keep posted on current events. Number 6, be a subscriber or a regular reader of a magazine for at least the preceding 6 months. Report any other magazines read. Requirement number 7, help someone find books on his hobby.
Okay, great. So here's a way that I think we should do this. I think we should skip number 1 and do 2 through 7, okay, and then come back to number 1 at the end because it's kind of the biggest topic to talk about. Okay, so what again was number 2?
Where'd you get all these books?
Where'd I get all these books? That's not what I remember you saying. Indicate the place. Okay, so mostly libraries.
Yes.
Free Library of Philadelphia.
Where you got
Wolf, Whittling Whistles,
books,
and the other whittling book. And then I went to our local branch of the Free Library, which is like 3 blocks that way. We've gotten books secondhand off eBay or local used bookstores.
Explain how you became interested in your favorite hobby and how you acquired the information or material to make your hobby worthwhile.
So instead of hobby, I'm gonna go. Well, I guess it is both. It was
a hobby.
It's like it was my hobby, and now it's like my profession, which is making movies. So I have like a whole shelf of movie making books up there. This is my list of favorites. Mm-hmm. So this is the Bill Ball book. It's my favorite book on directing actors. This is Masters of Light, which is interviews with world's best cinematographers. This is a book by Sidney Lumet, who's a great director, and it's just kind of a nice in-the-weeds description of how to direct a movie. This is Michael Caine's book on acting. It's kind of accessible if you don't really know what you're doing in acting. This is Walter Murch's book, In the Blink of an Eye, on editing. And I think this one is really short and easy to read, but teaches you his basic philosophy on editing.
Number 4, list the books you own as a start toward a personal library.
So that was clearly indicated for someone who's like 14 years old and has like a very neat little, tiny little stack of books.
Everything they bought at the Scholastic Book Fair.
And not indicated for 2 semi-hoarder adults that buy every book that they've ever seen and never throw any books away. I saw you going around and like counting books on bookshelves. Did you reach a final tally of how many books we own?
Yes, we have 654 books.
I was only 146 off. I guessed 800.
Yeah, you guessed 800, which is pretty close. But
that's pretty close.
I take that to mean that I get to add 146 so that we have 800, and you'll be okay with it.
Okay.
Number 5. Report on newspapers or news magazines you read to keep posted on current events.
Okay, so I don't really read newspapers or even like news so much. I watch A Closer Look with Seth Meyers.
For more on this, it's time for a closer look.
I'd say the large bulk of my news is just recounted to me by Julie, where she finds something on Twitter and then reads me the gist of that thing.
Be a subscriber or a regular reader of a magazine for at least the preceding 6 months.
Here it is, American Cinematographer.
Do you like it?
I like it. I like to bring one issue of it on a plane and read it.
That's very specific.
It has a good duration for one plane ride.
Oh. Number 7. Locate and deliver reading matter to some shut-in or sick person, or help someone find books on his hobby, or render service to your school or public library, or perform some similar service.
Is it necessary to call them some shut-in?
Yeah,
Like, it feels like a dated
it's
term.
real dated.
And
Not
not even a shut-in.
Some.
Like some
Some
shut-in.
shut-in. Yeah.
I don't know of any shut-ins,
Yeah.
especially that would want me to come there and recommend them books.
But it also says, but in doing so, you will remember that reporting good deeds isn't the Scout way. Real people don't call attention to their virtues. Just assure your counselor that you have not overlooked this last requirement and have met it in spirit.
I assure you that I have met it in spirit.
Okay.
Now we can go all the way back to number 1 and talk about reading the 12 books. So some of the books I read during Cub Scouts, and then I read 3 books this week to round out the 12. So I read, the first book that I read was My Friend Flicka. It was recommended in the Merit Badge book.
Yes, under books about animals.
Books about animals. That is very true. It is such a book about horses. Side note, the reason why we own a copy of this book is because my screenwriting professor, Mark Rosenthal, gave us bookcases and bookcases of books, probably like 300 of our 654 total books are from Mark, and one of those books was Flicka, or My Friend Flicka, which he adapted the screenplay for the movie Flicka.
Yeah. Which now we need to watch.
So it was fun to read the exact copy that Mark used to adapt that screenplay.
When are you going to look at your daughter and realize that she's you?
Here's some shots of me reading My Friend Flicka. Why don't you tell me the synopsis of My Friend Flicka from that book, and then I'll tell you what actually happened in the book.
Okay, this one's very short.
Okay, mine's very long.
Ken wanted a colt, and Flicka became his own.
Okay, that's pretty good. So first it starts with this guy, Ken. Ken, he's like 12 years old. He's getting bad grades. Dad's mad about that. But he's like, I really want a colt. And Dad's like, you can't have, no way. No way can you have a colt. You're being held back because you got a 0 on an exam. Which, how do you even get a 0 on an exam? He's like, I was daydreaming about horses. And then in a private aside, Mom's like, I think you should give him a colt. So Dad's like, you can choose any of the cults. And so he goes out and looks at the cults and he's like, I don't like any of these cults. He sees a cult running around and Dad's like, I'm going to give you an opportunity to be a man about this.
That's his voice.
That's his voice. And I want you to let me sell Flicka to the man. And Ken's like, nah, dude. And there's like a little bit heavy-handed theme of like, Flicka is wild and untamable. And that's just like, that's like very obviously like what Ken is like.
They need each other.
Yeah. She does something weird. There's like something with a coyote and she like runs off and gets caught in a fence or something, falls down a ravine and gets hurt. She gets an infection. She starts getting really skinny, like a zombie. Like Flicka, I'm dead, half dead Flicka. Dad's like, what is that? I'm not having that on my farm. I'm gonna shoot that horse. And Ken's like, no, Dad, no. Dad's like, well, Gus, shoot Flicka tomorrow, right? So Ken's like, oh, I gotta figure something out.
One day.
And Flicka somehow like gets thirsty and like wanders and falls into some water. This is where it gets a little shaky. That cold water like washes her infection away and like removes her fever. I don't think it's gonna wash out your blood infection.
No, I don't know that.
It makes Ken sick for like 2 months, but he like gave his life force to Flicka. So she like then starts to get better and better and better, and Ken gets pneumonia and can't go back to school. Dad takes Ken out and they look at a deer, and that like wakes Ken back up, and then they go and he hangs out with Flicka. The end.
That's it?
The second book I read this week was My First Summer in the Sierra by John Muir. And so this one's great. This one is a total delight. I think you'd love it, Julie.
I'm sure I would.
It's like his journal as he goes through the Sierra Mountains. Mm-hmm. Describes a lot of plants. Describes a lot
I
of...
like that.
Yep. And just kind of like, God, look at that mountain. He seems like an eager student, John Muir, whereas Thoreau seems like a know-it-all. You know, like here, let me tell you about nature. I have sat at a pond.
Now I know everything.
Yeah, I mean there were moments of the John Muir book where I zoned out a little bit, especially it's hard to describe a plant.
You need more plant experience.
But plants was like I got a little lost in that. And then the third book that I read this week, and I've read this one a couple times, is From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, which is one of my favorite books. I kind of like a lower stakes adventure. Yeah. Like getting kicked out of a museum type stakes.
Yeah.
I mean, now you'd probably go to jail if you did. If you like slept in Napoleon's bed.
Was it Napoleon or Marie Antoinette?
Yeah, Marie Antoinette. Those are the three books that I read this week, and we did shots of those, which were, you know, like I think I read like a sum total of 8 pages in those shots.
Yeah.
It was fun to do a whole week of just reading.
Yeah, to be forced to just like sit down and take time to read is really nice.
Yeah, it was a nice recovery from physical development, which I'm still sore from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I think that's it.
that's it. Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye.
Bye.